Kasparas Jakucionis, National Player of the Year? Why not?
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me on all the social medias. Do a quick search for Locked On Illini. Come say hello. Come say something nice. Come say something not so nice. Just keep it constructive. That's all I ask. But I do say thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's going to be an interesting episode. I was referencing an article that by Isaac Trotter of 24/7, where he went over 10 players who he felt like had at least a shot at winning National Player of the Year. And Kasparas Jakucionis was listed as number 9. And I mean, quite honestly, if you take a look at the situation currently, it may not seem very likely, if we're going to be fair and unbiased, which I try to be on the show outside the post games. The post games is a Illini fan therapy session. But the more I got to think about it, in particular, just trying to think about the last 2 weeks or so, the argument for Kasparas is there. I'm not saying he's a favorite. I'm not even saying I would put money on it. But what I've noticed is that the national narrative is starting to show that Kasparas Jakucionis is super important to this team. The shock loss against USC. Why did that happen? Many say it's, well, yeah, but you know what? Illinois didn't have Kasparas. This last loss against the Michigan State Spartans, a lot of folks, of course, and again, there's even Michigan State fans to this day in my comments of that last video talking about, whether Kasparas committed 5 fouls or not. But, obviously it was very important, the fact that he only played 9 minutes that game. He fouled out and, Illinois wasn't able to come out victorious. What's become super apparent and super obvious is just how important KJ is to this basketball. Last year, right around the turn of the new year, it was Marcus Domask who stepped up, and even in Terrence Shannon Jr.'s absence, and legitimized himself as kind of an alpha in his own right, a guy who can carry the team even though the Batman wasn't there. But this year, as much as we've waited and we've been patient and we've been hopeful, it really doesn't look like there's going to be a second guy who can step up and take on that star role that Kasparas has had since essentially the third game of the season. This team is built around Kasparas. Everything is run by Kasparas Jakucionis, the playmaker. And I think now with the national media and national fans kind of realizing that, Illinois right now is, I believe, 5th in the conference, sitting with 3 losses already, a loss to Northwestern, a loss to USC, and now a loss to Michigan State. It's crunch time for Illinois. Let's be quite frank. They don't have much of a leash at this point. If they have any aspirations to win the Big Ten Conference, they're going to have to start making ground. And, they got a little bit of a break on Tuesday night when Purdue lost to Ohio State. By the way, the Buckeyes having one heck of a back-to-back day, winning the national championship in football one day and beating Purdue at Mackey, snapping their streak, which I don't think they'd lost at Mackey since like 2023 sometime. So congratulations to the Buckeyes out there. But Kasparas Jakucionis right now averaging 15.9 points, 5.3 assists, 5.1 rebounds, 41% from three-point range. Let's assume a scenario where Illinois obviously still has to play Michigan. They play Purdue last week of the season, and they have a return matchup against Michigan State. Let's say there's a scenario where Illinois only loses maybe 1, max 2 more games the rest of the season when it comes to the Big Ten schedule. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not one of those guys right now who's going to stare into this camera or talking to this microphone and tell you that right now Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten Conference. I've settled away from that thought now. I kind of talked about that in the postgame. At some point, you have to prove it on the basketball court. And the season is almost 40% over. And we're sitting 3 games behind Michigan State. It would be irresponsible of me. It would be very fanboyish of me to say that I still think Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten Conference. Do I think they have the highest ceiling? Absolutely. And that has not changed in any sort of way. But right now, objectively speaking, Illinois is not the best team in the Big Ten Conference on Wednesday, January 22nd. But they are capable of turning things around. And why not? What if Kasparas is able to stay out of foul trouble, keep himself healthy, and kind of spearhead the Illini into a first place or maybe even second place finish in the Big Ten Conference? This is an Illini team that almost every single night, win or lose, is being talked about by the national media. They were always one of the main topics on Field of 68. The Sleepers boys love talking about Illini fans. Let's be quite honest, that we tend to give them a lot of clicks, of course. Illinois, the way the team is built, the personality surrounding the program over the last couple of years, and just quite honestly, the fan base is something that advertisers and content creators love to try to take advantage of. So, what if Illinois loses 1, maybe 2 more games the rest of the season and is able to get a top 2 finish in the Big Ten Conference? We know that a lot of that will be on the back of Kasparas, right? Purdue right now, if the Big Ten, all Big Ten teams were released, Purdue could potentially have 2 guys on that list in Braden Smith and TKR. Michigan, same thing with their 2 bigs. They could have 2 guys listed on there. Michigan State doesn't really have one alpha player that could be mentioned in the National Player of the Year conversation. With Illinois, everybody knows that Kasparas is the guy. There's no real question on who number 2 is because, quite honestly, we don't even know who number 2 is. It's Kasparas leading this entire team of very talented individuals, don't get me wrong, but no one's playing at the level of Kasparas. So for the last month and a half, what if Kasparas continues to raise his averages from 16, 5, and 5, gets it to 18 and a half, 7 and 7? He's already shooting up those mock drafts, right? He's been as high as number 3 in one of the more recent ones, so he's being talked about constantly. I do think that there's an opportunity, not likely, that if Illinois is able to really just kind of take their season into their own hands and play the way that they're capable of playing, that Kasparas is going to be mentioned as one of the finalists for National Player of the Year, which again is amazing because as an Illini fan, we've never really had anyone at this level as a freshman. Sure, Terrence Shannon Jr. last year would have been competing in any other year, but unfortunately his personal situation and, arguably the greatest college basketball player of all time ruined any chances of him being considered for that trophy. But Kasparas, this year, he has the all-around game. At 18 years old, he's going to be the highest Illini picked in a very long time. And if this season still has a chance to turn out the way we all silently hope and think that it still might, who knows? We might have a National Player of the Year wearing orange and blue. This message is brought to you by Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time. There's no better way to get in on the action than Prizepicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players. And if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. Prizepicks. Run your game. All right. As I mentioned before, we are so close to 2,000 subs. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, as of Monday morning, 61% of the people watching this content aren't subscribed. Trust me, it doesn't cost you guys anything, but it helps a little channel like mine grow immensely. So I'd appreciate it if you don't mind. Obviously, Illinois versus Maryland on Thursday. Finally, we get the whole drama that came with the post game of that Michigan State Spartans game over and done with. Illinois has to move on, and they've got a couple potentially winnable games at home, thankfully, coming up this week. And so to learn a little bit about Maryland and the Terrapins, I brought in Locked On Terps host Tre Moore. Trey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem, Trey. So let's just go and start. Usually for this, I like to ask the host, obviously you're the expert on Maryland, but coming into the season, where were the expectations on where Maryland basketball should finish?
Yeah, I think this year the expectations were just to be a tournament team. I think we wanted to make the tournament. I've always said that I thought that we could be maybe above like a 6th seed. But I think as the year's gone on, I think we just want to make it into March. And I think that going into the season, that was the expectation for this group. Really talented team. And after how bad of a year that we had last year, with just having not such a good roster, just having not a ton of balance on the team, I think this year bringing in a lot of key transfers, obviously Derik Queen, the freshman. I think this year for us, Maryland wanted to be a tournament team. That was the expectation. I think that the entire program has right now, to be a team that's playing in March.
You know, let's just talk about Derik Queen real quick. My everydayers here on Locked On Illini, I know I've often called him my favorite player in the Big Ten that doesn't play for Illinois. He just reminds me of the classic Big Ten big. I'm a little older than you, but like, you know, when you think about the bigs in the past, Derik Queen's kind of like a callback to that type of player. You let me know. You know, obviously he's averaging 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists on 55% shooting. Give the Illini fans here who may be watching Derik for the first time this season a quick little scouting report.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say he's got an old man's type of game. Even the way he moves, his athleticism, it's kind of interesting. He's kind of moves at his own pace, controls the game that type of way. He's not a dominant type of athlete, but just a really skilled type of player. A lot of people say he reminds them of Jokic, which is obviously a really high comparison. But his game, it's really cool to be able to watch. He has a mid-range game that he'll shoot a good amount. He'll throw in some post fadeaways. Sometimes has made some big shots doing that. But a lot of this stuff happens down low in the paint. I think he probably, to me, has the best footwork out of any player that's a freshman this year in the country, down low, and what he can do sometimes with his feet is really exciting to be able to watch. And I think that's what he's really elite at, some of the stuff that he can do down low with his feet. And then he's just a really high IQ player. I think that's where a lot of the Jokic stuff comes from, his ability to pass the ball, the ability to score, the ability to just do everything on the court and play at a high IQ that you don't always see from big mans down low, oftentimes see from guards, but not all bigs have that type of game, and he does, which I think really is exciting for him. So he does a little bit of everything, rebounds the ball, offensively, can pass the ball, but down low is where he does a lot of his work, and he'll work a lot in the mid-range game. Watch out for some of his footwork, though.
Yeah, Derik's one of those kids where there's so many good freshmen in the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
And, you know, at least in the basketball side, Maryland isn't really one of the bigger brands right now because they're so new to the conference that I feel like Derik's being overlooked. And I myself, you know, I try to watch as much Big Ten basketball as I can. And you know, I knew of the Queen story, you know, committing to Maryland over the last year or whatnot, but just seeing him in person, I've really enjoyed watching him play. I did see he struggled in the last game against Nebraska with only 3 points and 7 rebounds. Was it a particular style of defense that the Huskers were playing, or?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he gets doubled down there, and I think he loses his poise a little bit down low, which I think earlier on in the season he wasn't doing as much of. And I think at times when things haven't been going his way, and he's kind of been used to that, even in college, whenever we had a big game, it felt like he would play well. But there has been over the last 5 games, there's been times where he hasn't been at his best. Luckily, Maryland's a lot of times has other guys to make up for it, but I think sometimes he turnovers the ball a lot. It's just definitely something that concerns, especially when it's physical defense and some of the double teams that can happen. That's when sometimes he gets in his head a little bit, when it's not easy for him, when he can't just play 1-on-1. Even though he's a good passer, he wants to be able to score the rock down low and kind of determine what he is able to do. And sometimes when he's getting doubled, it's more of the defense determining what he has to do. So I think that's kind of where a lot of his struggles root from. But what I've been saying on Locked On Terps is he's got to turn over the ball less. There's games where he's turning the ball 5 times, 3 times. It's just too many turnovers.
Interesting. That's the matchup I'm really looking forward to. Derik Queen against both Tomislav Ivisic and Morez Johnson. We do have, the size to match up with Derik, but Derik's just a really skilled player. Tell us, outside Derik, who else should Illini fans to, kind of focus on as a guy who could hurt the Illini?
Yeah, there's a couple guys. If we stay down low, Julian Reese, who I'm sure a lot of Illinois fans are familiar with, down low, our other big man, really good player as well. And he does a little bit of everything for us in terms of rebounding, scoring. He's been shooting from the free throw line a lot better this year. And him and Derik Queen kind of make up a really cool duo down low, and he can block shots as well. So he's another guy. And then transfer guard Jacoby Gillespie is a kid that has played some really good basketball for us. At times has been our best player. He's really good. He's our leading guy in terms of assists. He can create off the dribble, which I think is really big in today's college basketball. He also shoots the 3 ball well, so he's another kid to look out for. And then Rodney Rice as well, who's a transfer from Virginia Tech. He's probably our best pure scorer at the guard position, shoots the ball well, has been really consistent over the last 5 games. He gives us a lot of scoring as well. So those are kind of the main 3 other guys that can really kind of hurt Illinois. I think they're all really high-level players. A lot of it starts with Gillespie, though, at the guard position, and him being our point guard. He's been really good this year.
All right, Trey, before I let you go, you did talk about earlier in the episode how Maryland kind of failed to live up to expectations last year. And so I did want to kind of talk about Kevin Willard a little bit. It's a name that's been coming up a lot on social media for me, at least every time I interact with Maryland Terrapins fans. I want to ask you, you're the expert on Maryland. What do you see as like the temperature on Kevin Willard's seat, and whether he's really coaching for his job at this point?
Yeah, I kind of see it as he's kind of in the middle in terms of temperature. I wouldn't say he's hot. I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat. Like, we're ready to pretty much fire him. The next mistake he makes, or the next thing that goes bad for Maryland basketball. But I also wouldn't say he should feel awesome about where he stands either. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle there. And I think what will kind of keep his job in a good spot and a better than where it probably is right now is just him making the tournament, what I talked about earlier on in the episode. I think the expectation for this team's too talented not to make March Madness. I think we got to be playing in March for us to feel pretty good about Kevin Willard, and for him to probably feel good about where he stands as the Maryland coach. I think you have to be playing in March.
All right, Trey, before I let you go, let the folks here know where they can find your work.
Yeah, you guys can go, if any Maryland fans, or if you're interested in college basketball in general, you can go over to Locked On Terps on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at Tre_Moore as well.
All right, Trey, thank you so much, and good luck on Thursday.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where TalkSpace comes in. TalkSpace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With TalkSpace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, TalkSpace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener to this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with TalkSpace when you go to TalkSpace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo SPACE80. To match with the licensed therapist today, go to TalkSpace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's TalkSpace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80. And that'll just about wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. I thank you all so much for joining me today. Again, if you're looking to talk Illini content all day, every day, make sure you send this channel out to your friends, your former Illini roommates, or maybe you just talk to Illini ball with. We'd love to have them a part of this show. And if you are on Discord, go ahead and click on the link in the description. We're talking Illini sports all day, every day. In particular, on Tuesday night, we're all giving play-by-plays of the Purdue loss and, of course, the UCLA win over Wisconsin. I believe they won. It's just Big Ten talk, Illini talk, and just sports in general and life in general talk. So if you're looking to join an Illini community that continues to grow by the day, definitely consider us at Locked On Illini. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.